Namaste and welcome to Indic Academy to KK Muhammed sir, one of the greatest archaeologists that India has been very fortunate, and we in our lifetime have had the privilege of seeing the fruits of your work. Thank you so much for everything you've done for this great country, sir.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I will start on a on personal kind of note where,
Yeah.
when we as professionals, is it possible to keep the our spiritual inclinations and our professional duties apart? For example, I met Professor KP Shankaran sir. He's a former professor of philosophy from St. Stephen's, Delhi University. I met him in
Yeah.
Kerala last week, and he
Uh-huh.
was telling that, in philosophy itself, we cannot have study philosophy in abstraction because always there is a personal experience that will color our understanding of philosophy, what we have experienced, what is our family background, what is our cultural background, what is our religious background. So no subject can be studied as in abstract form. So what is your personal experience, sir? As a professional, where does your personal side end and where does professional side start? And can we separate the two?
It is very difficult to separate both. But I give this one spirituality limited space because if you are a very highly spiritual person, then you will not be able to have be a man of active professional. Many of your action oriented work that would be taught by spirituality. So you have to give a limited space only. If you are a man of action, then you have to give limited space only for spirituality. Only that much space which is required for your soul. That's all. And if you become an absolutely spiritual person, then many of your action oriented work, that would not be possible. So I always keep it, because this one professional life is one thing, and the spirituality is, in my case, it is very limited. Otherwise, it will be creating a lot of problem. Or you will be able to rise above all these things, and that only Mahapurushas can do, but not ordinary people like us. So I always keep a limited. I give a very limited space only for the spirituality. Only that much which is required for my soul. That's all. Not more than that.
Yeah. So when you have faced challenges, you say only that much which is required for soul. So when you face challenges like during, when you say the most difficult situation was dealing with the Chambal dacoits.
Yeah.
So where do you get your strength from? So where do you get your ideas of what is right, what is wrong? Is it your archaeological training or is it your own sense of right, wrong, correctness of things?
No, for archaeology, I have a passion for archaeology. And that passion is almost to the point of madness. So if you have that kind of archaeological passion and madness, then many things, that will fall in line. And because I was this one fascinated by the books of Nehruji, that is the discovery of India, and then the glimpses of world history. When I was a student in the high school, Nehruji's English is very flowery English, but its translation was there in Malayalam. So there I took a decision that if I pass out my high school examination, I will go and study somewhere in North India where history was enacted. And that was Delhi, Agra, Fatehpur Sikri, or Rajgir and Patna. So fortunately, I got admission in a Ligat Muslim University. Yeah. So there I had an encounter with a professor. Uh, this professor was a follower of a particular group. So if you are not following, if you are not his one of his bonded intellectuals, he would be creating a lot of problem. So I had to overcome those things also, and that gave me the enough training how to, I mean, deal with those people. And in those days, there are this one self-improvement books were very limited. Again, only 3, 4 books were there. Dale Carnegie's book was there. Pereira's book was there. Very limited books. So I started reading those books. So that gave me enough strength to fight out against all odds and oppositions. So that made me a stronger person, and that also made me a wiser person when you deal with this kind of people, that is dacoits, naxalites in Chhattisgarh, dacoits in this one, Madhya Pradesh in Chambal Valley. And then I had again a fascination for Sanskrit. And even while I was in high school, I had by hearted so many verses from Bhagavad Gita, Rig Veda, and other things. That also helped me very much in my profession, because especially with the dacoits, once they know that you know Sanskrit and you are very good in Sanskrit, you can recite Vedas. That creates a very good atmosphere and a very good impression also. And especially when you are from a Muslim community, because the general impression about the Muslims would be that they are against temples. Because the name Muhammad itself, you are reminded of this one Ghazni Muhammad Ghori, who had destroyed our temples. But the same Muhammad is now reciting Vedas, he is reciting Upanishads. So all these things, create sometimes, or this one a different kind of atmosphere, and that will work out very favorably. For example, when I happened to meet one of the dacoits, his name is Nirbhay Singh Gujjar, and these people, they worship mostly devis. Before going for the dacoity, also they will do it, and when they come back, also they will. I mean, before dividing the booty, they will be again worship there, and then only they distribute the booty. This one booty. So when I happened to meet him, it was all of a sudden, and I told him, because because I actually rebuked him because he was smoking, and although it was not inside the temple, it was within the precincts of the temple. So I asked him, "आपको शर्म नहीं आते आप मंदिर में बीड़ी पी रहे?" So he looked at me very contemptuously, because he is the Lord of all that he oversees. So I often used to keep the surrendered dacoits along with me, so that if something goes wrong, they would be there to help me. So one of that surrendered dacoit, he came forward, caught hold of my hand and told me, "Sir, आपसे कुछ मत कहिए." So when he was so much respectful towards that person, I realized that I made a mistake. And by that time now, I had seen his interview also, because he had given such an interview to a iTech channel. So I realized that I'm in front of the most notorious dacoit of the time. And then I told him that God has sent you with some purpose to this place and for the protection of the place. So he became very curious. And I also said that all these gods and goddesses are here at this place. It's only because of you. All Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, all of them are here. It's only because of you. Otherwise, they would have been in Paris, or they would have been in England, or they would have been in some of the museums of England or America, Los Angeles, or somewhere. So he liked it very much. And then I added this thing: God has sent you with some purpose. So he became very curious. So he said, "What is that?" So I told him, all these temples, they have been constructed by a very powerful dynasty. And there are similar temples in Gujarat also. There are similar temples in Madhya Pradesh also, in Uttaranchal also. And they have been constructed by a great dynasty known as Gujjar Pratihara dynasty. So it is Gujjar Pratihara dynasty, and your name is Nirbhay Singh Gujjar, which means you belong to that illustrious family of Gujjars who had once ruled upon the country. And then I recited a mantra because that was the last point. I recited a mantra. Mahishasura Nirna Shavidatri Varade Nama Rupam Devi Jayam Devi Yasho Dehi Disho Dehi. And this kind of mantras from a Muslim, and that created a kind of different atmosphere, altered atmosphere. And he was by that time he was there was a task force also because the Madhya Pradesh government, Uttar Pradesh government, and Rajasthan government they had made a task force to kill him, and he was running from pillar to post. It was at that time. So this kind of things sometimes that goes in favor of you, although all other things are against you.
Sir, if I may read out a question, it's a
Yeah,
historical question regarding the ASI's role.
yeah,
So, the era before independence brought about a lot of change in Indian archaeology.
yeah,
And ASI director generals, who were mainly Britishers, wanted to spread archaeological knowledge among educated people in India.
yeah,
So, one of them says that the condition for the advancement of the study of India's great heritage is the widespread extension of archaeological research from the confines of a government department into the activities of the university and the learned societies of India.
yes,
It is an attempt to put archaeology onto bookstalls and to interest the educated public in archaeology.
yeah,
So to see ASIs as the main player
yeah,
as a government department, to archaeological moving into public spaces, into universities, educated Indians, artisans, the sthapatis, Indian historians, even our traditional scholars. So
yeah,
what is your opinion on the shift from power being centralized and centered in the ASI to the
yeah.
dissemination of power to a larger educated Indian public?
No, it is very essential because their vision was very right and very correct also because it should not be centered only on the Archaeological Survey of India. The reach of the Archaeological Survey of India that is again very limited. But if you give the opportunity to the universities and also even to the private groups also, but you have to be very careful about the private groups because sometimes they'll be forming the
Western.
groups, they will be forming these organizations, and then they would be indulging in the smuggling of the antiquities. So that also we have to be very careful. But the best way is, of course, giving an opportunity to the universities and also to similar other persons who are very much interested, so organization who are interested in all these things. So it would be very easy for the ASI also to operate through this organization. That is a great vision. But so far, even now, many of these powers are concentrated in Archaeological Survey of India. That should be disseminated. That is what many of the other organizations, for example, in England, they are doing it. That there are so many organizations who are undertaking excavations like this one. In Germany, there are so many other organizations who are taking up the excavations. So that atmosphere should be created here in India also. That would be very beneficial for us.
So, do you have examples of universities like I read about Punjab and in Calcutta, where the universities, and even in Madhya Pradesh, where some universities have the history departments have been pretty active. So, have you worked with any departments of history or archaeology in India in your works?
Oh yes, because for 10 years I was in Aligarh Muslim University, and we were excavating many of the sites. For example, Ataranjiketa is a proto-historic site, and Aligarh Muslim University excavated that site, and the report is out. Similarly, I worked in Fatehpur Sikri for 10 years again, and I could make some of the most outstanding discoveries there. One was the famous Ibadat Khana. Ibadat Khana was the place where Akbar had invited people from
religious
many
inter.
religions. Yeah. And then ultimately Akbar evolved that new religion known as Deen-e Ilahi. So that I could discover on the basis of a Mughal painting which was painted during the lifetime of Akbar. And similarly, there was a Christian chapel also, because when the fathers came, that is, I mean, Father Rodolfo Cavaiva and Father Montserrat came from England and Spain. Akbar gave them a place for their accommodation also, and also for their prayer. So that chapel also I could excavate it. And there are many. Delhi University is doing excavations like this one. Banaras University, BHU, is doing wonderful excavation work. Similarly, you have Baroda universities, Gwalior University. Many of these universities are now doing, but they should be given more this one funding for such things, because this one shortage of funds are there in all these universities. So that issue should be taken up by the Archaeological Survey of India.
So there's one more question. One Western archaeologist, Wheeler, you may have come across, he says there has been archaeology and anthropology in India, but no coherent science. It was not identified as a science, has been established here.
Yeah,
So, in one role, we are cold and calculating scientists. In the other, we have or should have the imaginative comprehension of an artist.
yeah,
But let it be emphasized that the sequence of thought and effort sits strictly in that order. That is,
yeah,
first analysis, secondly, reconstruction, and the former always leading or controlling the latter. That is, your artistic imagination of how something should be done is always less than your scientific analysis. Do
yeah.
you agree with this, sir?
And I fully agree because first of all, you have to have the evidence before you. Once you have the evidence, for example, we have got other human developments. So for the human development, the first species is Australopithecus. He is slightly above that of chimpanzee. So chimpanzees, this one CC, that is a calculation of the cranium capacity. That would be 5 point something, and the modern man, sorry, the Australopithecus would be 6.1, and now the present man, I mean, he has got 16.1. So this development and other things, first of all, we should make a full study of both archaeologically and also anthropologically. So we have Australopithecus, we have got Pithecanthropus, then we have got Cro-Magnon man. All this should be studied, and then only go for the artistic depiction of it and artistic development of it also. That would be very helpful, and I fully agree with Wheeler's view of it, because then only things would be we would be able to place it in a proper position.
Sir, in your like, but when we come to something like a sacred space,
Yeah,
like a temple or a mosque or a church, when there is something that the most dominant aspect is emotion and the spiritual content.
yeah,
So, do you think that we should prioritize in many cases, like in Hampi and in Karnataka, we have prioritized preservation over worship. So,
yes,
what do you
because
think?
yeah.
Over preservation is more important to the archaeologist than the continuation of a worship tradition.
Yeah, no, that is by the rule of not only the government of India, but also world over, that method is being followed. Because if it comes under the worship, I mean, because if it was under worship, if a particular monument was under worship, at the time of taking over the monument, then that worship would be continued. But you cannot introduce a new worship, because when the some temple is, for example, in Brihadishwara temple, in this one Tamil Nadu, There at the time of taking over the monument, the worship was going on. So that would be permitted. But in Mahabalipuram, at the time of taking over, it was not there. The worship was not there. So if you want to introduce a worship now, that is not possible. So that is the criteria not only here in India, all over the world. So that I mean we'll have to follow that way because many of these monuments depends upon the tourism also. So if we if you want to use it for tourism and if it is allowed for only for worship, there would be a conflict of interest, and we are facing this problem at various places.
Hmm.
But if you really develop a place like Hampi, you have got the great Virupaksha Bazaar is there. The great Pan Supari Bazaar is there. Now it is all fallen at various places. I visited the place 3, 4 times. If you can, I mean, the fallen materials are there. If you can reconstruct it by the same fallen material, it would look grander than that of Rome. It would be look grander than Greece and many other countries. And I have been pleading with not only with the government and some with some other this one few organizations also who are really funding this kind of project. We should take up Hampi as a case study. The thing should be restored. There are so many things to be restored. There are so many things to be excavated. So if the excavation and the restoration work, I'm not talking about the conservation. Conservation means simply keep it as it is. No, you should restore it, and that is permitted as per the UNESCO rules and regulations also. As per the Venice Charter, it is permitted. So wherever the fallen materials are there, you should not only conserve it, but you should restore it, so that it can revive the whole thing can be revived, and that would be looking very magnificent. We'll have to do something, and we'll have to create. We'll have to persuade the government to take up all these things on a war footing.
I hope you can do that, sir. The person I mentioned we met yesterday, Dr. Meera Natampally, she has digitally reconstructed Hampi.
Yes, of
So
course,
when
in
you see
Hampi
it,
also. Yeah,
yeah,
in
you
Hampi,
feel
when
like
you see,
crying, when
yes,
you see how it was, it's you just feel so emotionally upset when, see how it has been reduced to rubble. Such magnificent structures, and even the dress, like you said, the diamonds used to be sold on the streets
yes,
there.
the bazaars, yes, yes. And there is a beautiful description about the diamonds and other things being sold in the bazaars of Virupaksha. By Abdul Razak also it is there, and then the Niccolo Conti's description is there. It can be revived, even now. But the government should come forward, and which is not, because even though we all tried our level best, the government is not coming with that kind of vision. I don't know why.
So what do you think in this situation where somebody of your stature is saying that lots needs to be done but is not being done? How do we make this happen, sir? Is it public participation, public pressure
Public,
on a government?
yes. One thing is, you have to have visionary ministers for all these things, visionary and dynamic. During this one Vajpayee Saab's government, we had a very powerful and dynamic minister. His name is Jagmohan Ji. He was the governor of Kashmir also, and he was the lieutenant governor of Delhi also. And he was a man with that kind of vision. You need that kind of ministers. Also, you have to have the Director Generals of Archaeological Survey of India, the secretaries of this one, the Ministry of Culture, with that kind of enlightened vision also, and the personal dynamism also. That is what is lacking now. We are now outside because I am retired. While I was there, in Archaeological Survey of India, within my jurisdiction, for example, Bateshwar, it was completely because in a huge earthquake, the entire temple town had collapsed, tumbling down like a pack of cards. And ordinarily, an archaeologist would not take up the reconstruction work because he would be subjected to so much of criticism. But without caring for that, I started the restorations and this one reconstruction of it. And now you have a temple town, but I have been able to complete it only half of it. The rest half of it is still there. The remains are there, the parts are there. Why the government, who speaks so much about our great heritage, great glorious heritage and other thing, why don't they take up it? So that is what is required. You have to have that kind of this one passion for the subject, and also for the passion for the execution of the work. It is a, I mean, if you are giving 20 crores of rupees, one Pansubari Bazaar or Virupaksha Bazaar, we can revive it. Only 20 crores of rupees. Government is, I mean, there is no problem for the government of India to give that 20 crores of rupees. This is the maximum amount I am saying. It can be
Yeah.
reduced to 15 crores also sometimes. Because I got an amount for that Bateshwar temple from Infosys Foundation, that is Mrs. Sudha Narayan Murthy. She visited the site, and Madam was highly impressed by the kind of work we were doing. And then Madam from Infosys Foundation, they gave us 4 crores of rupees for the reconstruction of one temple and one mutt. You won't believe, we completed the work for which 3 crores and 75 lakhs was estimated. Within half of that amount, we have completed the work. And
Fantastic.
the rest of the amount, we said that it would be, I mean, other 10 other temples would be reconstructed. So this is what Archaeological Survey of India can do, and there are people. But let the government, who speaks so much about glorious civilization, गौरवशाली इतिहास की बात कहते हैं, लेकिन करते नहीं है. They could have done, I mean, Bateshwar also, they could have done this one, Virupaksha Bazaar also. They could have Supan Supari Bazaar, and there are so many things to do there in Hampi. It's a great township. You don't have another township like that in India.
Sir, always the attention goes to the big monuments, the famous sites, the historical spaces, and of course, all the attention is on Ayodhya and now Dwaraka and Kashi. So, but in your experience, have you found in smaller places people who have held these parts of our culture very dear and have done individual work to preserve and conserve secret or
Yes,
archaeologically important spaces? Can you share some anecdotes
there are so
with
many
the
individuals.
common man who is aware?
Yes, there are so many individuals who wanted to take up it. But the problem is the government rules and regulations are there. They are ready for the crowdfunding also. Many people, they told me that we are ready for crowdfunding. And the crowdfunding is I mean, one of the best ways for taking up all these things. But you cannot take up a conservation work of a heritage structure, that is an archaeological structure. There are limitations, there are restrictions also. If you take up it, a case would be filed against you. So a person is coming with a good intention, and now a case is being filed against them. So in all these things, if the government come forward with an open mind, many things can be done. And for that, you need, as I said, a visionary minister and some dynamic officers also. I mean, to help them. Then only things will change. Otherwise, things are running through the same rut.
So what is your idea about the structure and the personnel of ASI itself, sir? In terms of training, competence, selection? How do we make ASI is now we are seeing it as a government department, but how do we make it as a vibrant, very modern looking with so much now digitally possible?
Yeah.
How do
See,
we create human resources in ASI through proper selection, training, and recruitment? Or do you have any ideas on that? And what is the current status of ASI in terms of training? of
At the
personnel.
ASI, the infrastructure is very weak. You have, if you want to have 10 people for a certain post, you have got sometimes three, sometimes four, not more than that. So you have to strengthen the organization. You have to give proper training also. And at the same time, you have to, that is for the traditional archaeological people. And you have to infuse new blood also with new technology. For example, as you said, you took the name of that person who was digitally reconstructing it. And when this one went to Hampi also, a person came to me. He told me that I have personally reconstructed it, I mean, digitally. And he has reconstructed the chariot. And then he showed me. So there are people, and some of them are doing it freely also. But why don't the government come forward, harness all those people, give them freedom to work, so that they can also help the Archaeological Survey of India. So first of all, strengthen the organization, which is very weak, structurally very weak. Second thing, infuse some younger blood with new this one competence and with new technologies also. That is, ASI is lacking that one. So if you can combine both these things, of course, then we will be having a new archaeological survey of India with a new vision, with new dynamism.
You have actually mentioned in an earlier interview that it is a dark age for Indian
Yes,
archaeology.
yes.
So why
It's
is
still.
it why is you are the biggest success story and the face of ASI for most of us. So if you say that it is the dark age, what are we to make of the situation?
See, because since I said in the context of Bateshwar temple, because all what we have constructed, reconstructed, 80 temples we have reconstructed. We have been expecting a lot from the present government also, because they speak about the glorious civilization. गौरवशाली इतिहास की बात कहते हैं. But I mean, till 3 months back, not a single temple has been reconstructed during the present government's period. That is what I have been saying, that it is the darkest period. They'll be giving importance to lighting of the monument, illuminations of the monument, or for all unwanted things, pathways, boundaries, toilets, and toilets would be in certain unwanted places. For example, in this one, Tughlakabad, there are very few people who go to Tughlakabad. But there you will be having two toilets. You would be, I mean, spending huge amount for that one. But at the same time, if the same amount has been spent for the real monument, for the conservation of the monument, if I had got 1 crore rupees, I would have really constructed 40 temples. So similarly at various places, not only in Bateshwar, in various other places also. So the government should see through this. And I have been very, not only critical, I have been vehemently critical about the present condition, the present this one attitude of the government towards Archaeological Survey of India. So that is because, and I still repeat the same thing, that this is the dark age of Archaeological Survey of India.
So you have written one book, and I heard that you're compiling another book of your experiences. And
Yeah.
could you talk to us about that? What is your upcoming book about?
Yes, earlier I had written a book that was about my service story of Ayodhya, because I started my excavations right from Ayodhya onwards. What I had seen, what we had done, the kind of work there, and then moving to Fatehpur Sikri and various other places. That was a kind of service story book. And now it's a detailed book. For example, in Bateshwar, I mean, dealing with the dacoits, that was a very difficult problem, because there are so many groups. But I had to deal mainly with the Gujar group of people. What was the kind of conversation I had with them? How did they support me? Because initially when I went to the site, the biggest problem was, their question was, why do you want to conserve temples in a forest area? Who are going to come? So then we told them, so this is a government of India property, so it is the duty of the mandate of the government of India. And then the second thing is, why a Muslim should come and lead the whole group. So that was the second issue. So because and especially his name is Muhammad Ghazni, Muhammad Ghori. That is the common people they reminded of it. Then again they were convinced, no, he has got a record of doing all these things at various places. And then once you are able to complete it, I mean, then they wanted me to show them a sample. I mean, that is for temple and then the state. When I completed it, that it was within 4 months, They came, they saw, and then we conquered them. Not they conquered us, we
Yeah.
conquered them. उन्होंने
Yeah.
कहा they said that ये तो चमत्कार का काम है. So we have created miracles there. So that is, this is a kind of, narration of the whole thing. And when I published these things in a newspaper known as Matarbhumi, which is one of the major newspapers of Kerala, and there was tremendous response for that one, tremendous response. So now I am completing that one, and soon it would be translated into English and Hindi, other languages also. So this is part by part I am giving, because archaeology should be taken to the common people, a public archaeology, because in other places also my intention was always public archaeology. Bring the people into the archaeological network. They would really enjoy it. It is almost like a detective novel. So that is what we are doing it now.
Yeah. So, which is in your this narration, which was your most challenging puzzles? Was there any place where you had to go back and do research to, one is the challenge of dealing with people in the site,
Yeah.
but the challenge of the historicity, historical, history of the place, or of getting proper evidence. So, which was your most challenging experience?
The most, because we have two groups. That is, one is exploration and excavation, and the second is conservation. These are the two major domains of Archaeological Survey of India. So, as far as this one is concerned, excavation is concerned, that was the discovery of Ibadat Khana. Because earlier, most of the scholars have been identifying various standing monuments of Fatehpur Sikri as Ibadat Khana.
Right.
I said, no, it is not the standing monuments. It is a small mount, because it is a fallen mount over which 12 trees were growing. So before me, some other scholars had also suggested the site, but they were not archaeologists. They did not excavate the site. And then fortunately, I got that Mughal painting of Akbar's time, in which it was shown that Akbar was having discussion at Ibadat Khana with Christian priests. That painting, that was a remarkable painting. And when I compared that painting with this structure which I excavated, took out from the womb of earth, that was exactly
Right.
similar to the one. So that was, a real, this one eureka moment for me in my life. It was
How
a
did you
real
get the
eureka moment.
painting, sir? How did you get the painting?
The painting is that painting is also well-known painting. Many
Okay.
people have seen it. It is
But
now in
not
Chesapeake
connected with.
collection. Chesapeake collection. But the thing is, the real thing is, I mean, connecting that, because they were not archaeologists, they were historians mostly. Those they had also, many historians had seen the mound also, and they also said this would be the site. But they had seen the painting also. But that connecting link, they lost it. That I could connect that dots. So that was the most important. That is what I said, that it is the eureka moment. And
So what
similarly,
are
in Bihar, because there was a mount, I was just traveling from this Nalanda to Bodh Gaya. I mean, there is, after the death of Lord Buddha, his body was distributed into 8 places. And the major, this one part of it went to Rajgir. Because in Rajgir, Bimbisara and Ajatasattu, the Shatru, they were the most important king. But where is that, this one? I mean, relic casket, where Buddha's body remains were enshrined. That was a biggest challenge for the archaeologists. So while I was traveling, I saw a mount, and immediately I came to the conclusion that this would be, I mean, most probably this would be one of those mounts. Many other processes had also seen the same thing. But when I excavated, and the railway, this one, the Nitish Kumarji was the railway minister at that time. So he wanted to have a Buddhist circuit. So Buddhist circuit, they wanted to lay down that track also. And this mount was about to be dismantled because for the railway track. And before that, I went to the site, I started excavating it, and I got a relic casket also. The relic casket would be, I mean, the most important thing for a Buddhist. And the part of the relic casket, not the full casket, the part of the relic casket. So that way, then when I further excavated, I got the entire stupa itself. So these they were the two important things. One is Ibadat Khana and the Christian chapel, and the second is that Buddhist stupa of Rajgir. These are my two important discoveries.
So, what would you attribute to your these connections? Is it intuition or is it just being a very efficient and extremely thorough archaeologist?
The number one is passion. That is there. And the second thing is, I am a common man's man because I relate myself with the common people. So in archaeology, you have to deal with common people. I mean, very ordinary people, and especially your workers. They are manual workers. They would be getting only 200, 300, 500, not more than that. So if you can establish a kind of relationship with those people, they would come and tell you many of those things, which ordinary scholar cannot find out. Because, they live in that particular area. So it was in Fatehpur Sikri, it was the same people who had come, my laborers. At that time, I'm talking about 1976. So they were getting 5 rupees, 10 rupees at that time for the work of a day. And it is because of my connection with them, personal connection, because I used to go to their houses. I used to, this one, especially on the festival days, sit with them in their mud houses. So they would tell you so many things which otherwise, it would have been very difficult for you. So I think that played a very important role. And then the passion also. Not anything else, because I'm not very intelligent person also. I'm
No, don't
simply an
say.
ordinary, but no, and simply an ordinary or above, a little bit above this one, but not much intelligent also. But all these, things, they play a very important role.
They come together very beautifully.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there is one thing when you are so close to the common man, there is a case like where there is Devi who is worshipped in her form. There's a natural formation, and she is being worshipped by the local people. And suppose there's an actual case where the ASI comes and takes away that um, form and puts it in a museum elsewhere. It is in actual worship. So where would your loyalty be? I mean, here there are people who've been worshipping this Devi for, they say, around 12,000 years, but it is seen as a thing that needs to be protected and preserved in a museum. So, what happens to these people for whom she is the primary deity who protects their lives, who protects the region around them? So, whose right and whose say is important in such situations?
If it is under worship, ordinarily Archaeological Survey of India do not deprive the people from the worship. In such cases, what I do is I make a small temple for them. It would be protected, but at the same time, it should be, because the security aspect also you have to see. So in such cases, we make a small construction around it. and people can go and worship, but at the same time, that would be within the care of the Archaeological Survey of India. In Chhattisgarh, I had done many works like that one. That will not be there in the government's account, but you can do it personally. So I had done many things like that one. And also, I have been taking while I was in Delhi, because at that time it was for Commonwealth. There were hundreds of workers under me coming from various parts of the country, like Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, Uttar Pradesh, and they would be coming along there with their children. And sometimes 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years. If they are above 5 years, then they would go for begging into the nearby Charaha. So me and my wife, we decided no, we should not allow them to go for begging. Instead, because they never get an opportunity to go to the schools. They are all migrant laborers. For 2 months they will be at one side, then for 6 months they would be at another side. So what we did is we made tended schools at various places, because you cannot make a permanent construction in monument. So in Qutub Minar we made a tended school like this one, exclusively for the children of those people who are working at the site. Similarly, in this one, Lal Killa, that is Red Fort, we made. In Tughlakabad, we made. In Purana Killa, we made. We were running 4 schools like this one. So it
How
was
lovely.
seen by a group of journalists when they came to that place, and they appreciated it very much. So IBN 7, they gave me a citizen journalist award, and
Oh,
that
how
was
sweet.
given by a very tall person. His name is Amitabh Bachchan. So
Oh.
it became well known. And when the American president came, he wanted to meet these children. So initially there was certain reservation from certain corners. But then the president said no, he would like to meet these children. So when this one meeting of these children and Obama was arranged, he was very much impressed. So this is when you, go closer to the people that and help them. Sarve bhavantu suginam, sarve santu niramaya, sarve badrani paschantu ma. If you can do this kind of social service, that will pay a lot, because it is neither going to the temple nor to the mosque. That is not the real worship, and the real worship is helping a man who is in need of it.
Absolutely. That's so beautifully put. So, if I may end with one last question about a land which is very dear to many of us, Kerala. And
Yeah,
it has so many shrines and a lot of worship which is not there in other parts of India is
yeah,
still being preserved with such, Shraddha in Kerala. And even the temples are in
yeah,
a much better state than they are in the rest. The lamps that are lit every day, thousands of lamps
yes.
lit. So what is that? How has Kerala, despite not having a lot of other issues, political issues, and other things, but has maintained this beautiful way of preserving tradition, both art, culture, temples, tantric worship, everything is like, even they say mathematics, you see anything, it's like beautifully being preserved. What do you think is this reason for Kerala being so vibrant?
See, Kerala is the only place where even now this Sanskrit drama is there. In no other part you can find this Sanskrit drama, but in Kerala, Sanskrit drama is there. And being the land of Shankaracharya, Kaladi, because it has got that kind of mystical charm that still maintains. And the region of the landscape of Kerala itself, it has got its own mystery. And at various temples, I have seen that tantric worship is still going on. In a North Indian temple, anybody can go and there is no restriction. But in Kerala temples, there are so many restrictions, even for Hindus also, because you have to remove your shirt from there. And these kinds of restrictions are, there even now in Kerala. And if they are giving prasadam, It is not like Tamil Nadu, they won't give the prasadam like Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or North India. I mean, they would be just dropping it because there may not
Correct.
be any kind of touch. Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't want to touch you.
Yes, they won't touch you. So that is still being maintained. While you may criticize it on, I mean, on one side, you'll have to appreciate it, that the pristine purity of the culture is still being maintained at various places.
So, what is the reason, sir, that you feel it's because of the Sanskrit being alive and spoken?
Sanskrit as a language also to some extent, and also because that pristine purity of the culture is also being maintained in various places, and it is not the case in North India. For example, I had been to Mathura not once. I mean Mathura because that was under my jurisdiction. In Benares or in Mithilanchal, because that is the Upanishadic Bhumi, all these places. But even there, you don't have this kind of cultural vibration is not there. That is, this vibration is being maintained in Kerala. And the main reason is that Sanskritic traditions are there, and then the Tantric traditions also. The Tantric tradition also in all other places it is being, I mean, it is weighing down. But in Kerala, it is still being maintained.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and such beautiful vision and inspiration to all of us. I hope we can also follow your path in doing something for this great nation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.